Hey everyone, welcome to a very special podcast with Comic Crusaders. I am your host, the random dude Josh, and I am so excited for this. We have a very special guest, Mr. Dave Devries. Dave, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Doing good.
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this for a little bit, and actually as I started preparing for this, I realized this is not my first exposure to your artwork. So this is like the young Josh getting to live a dream, actually. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But first and foremost, for people who don't know, you're definitely an artist and illustrator. You also do a lot of concept work as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And from everything I've read, you've worked for DC, Marvel, and Universal Studios.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Well, the concept work spans. It's not. I've done it for video games. I've done it for movies, and I've done it for theme parks. But so that's what the Universal was for the Mummy ride. So
Okay.
if you, whenever you, what's really a trip is when I go to the park and they take that picture of you, when you're like, you're screaming on the ride. It's framed by the artwork that I created. So it's like, it's pretty awesome, to go to the park and get a little memento of, what you did.
Yeah.
But all the artwork that's inside the ride, on the California ride, that's all basically my work. The stuff in Florida, it's in there too. But when I first did that, it was more about the behind the scenes like concept of what something is going to look like. It's called key art. So basically, while they're developing this, they want to see what the ride will look like. And, for example, there's a scene in the ride where, when you're online, there's all these like stuff, but in the ride itself, there's a scene where you go through this come into this big chamber, and there's all this fire and explosions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
because that's how Universal does things.
Yeah, big. Yeah, it's like a big time movie. So anyway, so what happens is that in the painting, right? I did these figures, these mummies that pop up. Okay, they're on hydraulics, and they come up, and they're coming out of water. And so what I didn't realize, or what they didn't realize, is that that's not going to work. And so the artwork is really good because they can visualize that, show it to the engineers, and engineers are like, that's going to destroy the dummies or the figures, because they're going to be coming out of this heavy weight water, how many times a day, and they're going to just get, deteriorate fast. So they turned it into mist. So when you see that on the ride, that was one of the main scenes. And then there's another scene where you're coming out of a mummy's mouth, which there's a little story there. And
I like stories.
Yeah. So basically the first time I went, right, my nephew Cameron's going to cringe, but he was 8 years old and he went on the ride with me. And so I'm just like, are you sure you want to go on this? It's kind of scary. There's monsters and stuff. He's like, no, I can do it. I'm good. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, no, Uncle Dave, I can do it. I'm like, okay. So he sits next to me on the ride, and this is the first time I've seen it. Okay. So you have to understand, I'm seeing, like, there's a kind of a buzz for an illustrator when they see something in print, because they're seeing their artwork that they did a long time ago. And now it's like, there it is, Yeah. So I had that moment. In addition, I'm on a roller coaster. So it's like double thrill right there.
Yeah.
And so I'm flying through this ride, and I'm like, oh my God, there it is. And I'm just like, and as I'm going through it, I'm feeling like this on my shoulder, like, and I don't even know it. I'm just kind of like, whatever, and I'm like, there it is. There's my stuff. And finally, as we're coming out of the mummy head, right? Mm-hmm. I finally look down, and there's my nephew, Cameron, and he's going, And at that moment, they take the picture as I lean in and go, it's okay. So, hold on.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
There you go. I don't know if you could see it, but let's see. I don't know. Let's see if you can see it too well.
Oh, yeah.
There I am comforting my nephew, Cameron, as as the whole thing goes down. And so there's like, and around it, that's not my artwork. Did they do anything? No, that's not my artwork. But on the other Universal Studios, I think it's in there. But it's fun, it was a trip. So
well, and then you have this amazing memento to look back and go, that was like the pinnacle of it. You've gone on this huge high, if you will, and then you look down and, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Reality has come back to haunt me. But we laugh about it. That's one of the cool things about this career and going into illustration is that it takes you in all these places. I've done work for this place, that place, movie stuff. I did work on the Lego 2 movie, the second part that came out a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And man, it was really cool. It was just so much fun to be a part of. And my son loves Legos, so it was like double. So we went to the premiere, and I was able to, take my son, get on a plane. We flew out there, and it wasn't like any of the actors were there, but it was like all the people that worked on it. Yeah. Like the guy who did the credits I talked to him afterwards, and it's like, I'm like, thanks for putting my name in, So it was a lot of fun. And the initial illustration I used my son's Legos to kind of help me with reference. I got the camera, and it was a trip.
So I'm sure that's probably even more exciting for you when you see those and you go, oh yeah, I remember exactly which piece.
Yep.
Now, did you happen to just keep those as a way to be like, that's the one that I use?
You know what? I have pictures of them. I did keep one, but it didn't appear in the movie. It was like the Duplo.
Oh, okay.
It's hold on. This was, you'll see this guy in my illustrations if you ever look.
Oh, okay. I remember that one. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. And I saw a couple scenes where I was like, hey, that's definitely from a drawing I did. But the thing about it is it might not be, because it's such a communal way of working. There's lots of illustrators and concept artists working on this. So it kind of has like this collective kind of thing that comes to a head. So you might do a lot of images and they kind of contribute to the overall production, but there might not be any one specific thing. So but it was really great. The director Rob Schrab, who did he's probably not listed because they went through a number of directors, but he was awesome. Such a good dude. He did Scud the Disposable Assassin. Did you ever see that comic? Mm-hmm. And he, such a creative guy, had such wonderful ideas, and I loved working with him. So that was a real nice thing to go through. So just working with good people.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That just now has changed my view of the Lego 2 movie. So I'm going to go watch it again and look for all those little.
Yeah.
Look for the Dave Devries contributions in there.
So, there you
go. Moving along, one thing I noticed about your artwork and your style, you definitely take that horror theme as well, which is something that I always found to be very intriguing.
Right.
And the one thing that really stood out was the monster engine. The book.
Yeah, that's a tightrope, because you're working like, all right, so the concept basically is that I take a kid's drawing, I project it onto a screen or onto a piece of illustration board or a canvas, trace it out exactly, and then I apply all the things I learned about light and shadow and texture and painting to make something look three-dimensional, and paint it. And started in 98, got published as a book in 2005, went viral like half a dozen times. It really got out there. It was actually in 2010, Huffington Post had it as one of the top 50 most viral posts on the internet. So that was a really cool thing. And and as a result of being so visible, there are other people who started to do this. There have been people prior to me who did it, but I think I had the kind of the biggest splash in the pond. And and since then it's kind of like something I do, and what's fun is that I don't know what the painting is going to look like. I've gotten better at it over the years, but a lot of times I look at the kid's drawing and it could go 10 different ways, in terms of how you flesh it out, and what kind of background you put it in and whatnot. But they're really trippy, and they're a lot of fun to paint.
Oh, I bet.
And so the horror element you were talking about. Yeah. So like my natural inclination is to go dark, go and scary. So you're applying it to this really innocent child's drawing. So it can be a little unsettling. I don't think so. It looks perfectly normal to me.
I was gonna say I didn't think it was.
But some people have that, in the beginning. I think I got when it went viral, I got like an interest letter, and they said, Parent Magazine wants to do a spot on you, and then eventually that evaporated. They probably looked at the work, and whoever they on their staff liked it and put it forward, was probably like, no, we can't, we'll scare kids, because I've heard that before. But it's kind of like, whatever. Every kid that I've ever met never got scared of it.
I'm sure.
One kid, but not because of my work, but actually because of the drawing that the other kid drew. So it had nothing to do with me.
Oh,
yeah. So it's like you just kind of deal with, this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I love the concept that you're taking these kids' drawings and taking the creation from their imagination and enhancing it.
Right.
It's not taking away from the root idea that the kids have come up with, which is one of the things I absolutely love about it.
I try and maintain as much of them as possible while simultaneously adding my own spin. Because I don't want to be just a machine that kind of turns them out. I want my personality to come through in the painting. So that comes through the situation I put them in, the background, right? The lighting, the shadow, however you paint it. And it's really about placement, I think, of where the characters are. Cause they're just like, most people look at kids art and go, all right, it's a kid's drawing. But when I try and make it so that adults go, hey, I never looked at it like that before. And eventually it got, there's a spot on, if you can Google it, there's a spot on CBS News. That was really fun. And, and in that spot, you'll see, I go to, elementary schools, and I do live demonstrations. And
I saw that story, and it was fun to actually see you have the kids come up and actually painting
right
on the canvas.
Yep.
So, and then you were just completely covered in paint too.
Oh yeah, I get covered in paint, and that's where I let the kids work. Because in a live demonstration, I pick them from the audience and stuff, and it's a real like crazy, dramatic kind of like fun thing, instead of me just painting up there by myself. And the kids get the painting at the end of the day. The school keeps it. So and I love that. I love their face. I love, like, one girl came up and offered me like her birthday cookies. There's such a nice give and take. I've been so many places, so many different audiences, from California to Maine to Texas. Just been a lot of great memories and stuff in doing this. And my next goal with that is to actually produce a story that I can do as a graphic novel. So
that would be fantastic.
And I've been working on it for years, but I just have to, I just got to light a fire under my butt and get it going and get the actual story written, because you sit there and you second guess yourself a lot, or I do. And that's not good. So, but yeah, the component with being around the kids has taught me a lot about how they see life and the way their brains work with logic. And they have kind of like a weird circular logic that after you've initially shot past the logical conclusion of where they're going, it goes all the way out like a boomerang, and then goes to these weird places, and then comes right back to where it was supposed to go.
Yeah. And us as adults, we sit there and go, how we're trying to connect the dots, and it makes no sense.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like with the painting that I do, that kind of takes it from the place where it's like, it takes it away from, when you're looking at the work from an adult's point of view, where my kid, like I could draw better than your kid. You've seen posts like that. Your kid can't draw. There's a lot. It's an attitude that a lot of adults have. They just don't see the value in them, and when they see them fleshed out, hopefully they have a different appreciation for it. So, because I love their work.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely fantastic, and definitely something I was very curious about, because I think I saw it on social media when the book went viral,
right,
about the Monster Engine, and I was like, ooh, I like this. Never would have thought, fast forward to now, that I'd be chatting with you, but here we are.
The coolest thing that came about was I went to Japan. That was the coolest thing. I got like an email from Nippon TV, and they had me over. I was on a Japanese quiz show.
Oh, wow. And
I was like, I'd seen the episode, like I've seen some of their shows where like a lot of people like, get screamed at, or they're dropped in, vats of, slime or something like that, and I was just like, what am I getting myself into? And me and my wife went, and it was a 4-day trip. We had an interpreter for when I was on camera, and it was so much fun. And, it's just, that was probably the coolest thing. And, one of these like once in a lifetime things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of want to move forward and kind of transition, if you will, to why we've got you on the show.
Sure.
And specifically talking about Marvel. So when I had mentioned that I had seen your artwork when I was a kid, it was the Masterpiece trading cards,
right,
going back to 95. The one in particular that stood out that I remember was Wolverine and the Sentinel.
Oh yeah. That painting changed my life, because of that painting, right? Because I had I started in 93. I was at the San Diego Comic-Con. It's like, oh, they're doing trading cards. You should go buy a Fleer. And so I went there and shared my work, and they gave me 2 cards. And that's how they do it. They say, okay, we don't know you. Do 2, see how you do. And then we'll talk more. And then I got to the next set, which was this set. And I had 12 cards total, and this was one of them. And there was also a Omega Red, and they both had that same kind of quality where they're like this. They're reaching out at you. There's like this kind of like in your face kind of style going on, which was what I wanted to do, and I felt constrained by the small size of the card. I really wanted to have like the characters, almost be interacting with the viewer. And so when I did this one, that kind of piqued their interest, and they said, would you like to do the Marvel Masterpiece set? I'm like, why, yes, I will. And then they said, well, it's due in a year, and there's 50 cards. Now I was maybe doing one painting every 2 weeks, so that timeline was not going to work out. And I was like very hesitant. I almost gave it up, and they said, this is how much we're paying you. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the job. And and from just being forced, feet in the fire, I sped up. So it took a while. I did portraits a lot in the beginning, and then they were like, hey, we hired you to do Wolverine jumping out at you, so could you please do what we hired you to do? And that's just your typical kind of young illustrator being terrified and kind of clinging to the wall, so to speak. Cool, so, and then I got going, and I sped up. So
yeah, no, this, like I said, was the one that I remember. Let's see, 95. So I would have been, I was 12 when this card came out.
Right.
And that was at the height of X-Men the animated series. Wolverine was my favorite, so when I saw it, I was like, oh my,
yeah, yep.
And I just from my perspective, I love the fact that you have that depth perception
right
within a flat surface. And it just, that screams X-Men.
Well, you want to be in the experience of what it feels like to have Wolverine in a rage coming at you. So
absolutely.
that's the thing. I mean, he's basically going from one sentinel to another in this, you don't see what's going on. So yeah. If you don't have that foreshortened thing, you don't get that feeling.
Well, and I've even seen kind of the same flow, if you will, in other artwork you've done. You even did one with Carnage, obviously not part of the Masterpiece series,
right?
But kind of this,
and this was exactly what I'll tell. Go ahead. I'll let you finish your thing.
Yeah, no, I when I first saw this, I was like, okay, this to me is Carnage. That is, well, that's Wolverine. Here's Carnage.
Right. Yes.
And when you think of the symbiotes, they have form, but they don't have form.
Right.
So they're able to manipulate in every way, shape, and form.
Right.
And with how chaotic Carnage is, we'll get to Sonic in a minute. So I'm intrigued to hear the story about Carnage and how this one came about.
Oh, well, okay. So this was part of is it Ravenswood Penitentiary? I think it's whatever the penitentiary where they lock up all the bad dudes.
Yeah.
That was my subset. And what I wanted to do, okay, so I remember one of my teachers in college was saying, like, talking about being mugged, and basically saying that, like, when you're mugged, there's a distortion of reality. Your time slows down, the walls close in, things get real fish-eyed, kind of like you're basically, experiencing an alternate state. So this is from the point of view of the guard out in the hallway.
Okay.
The last seconds of his life. And so that's why the walls are distorted, and that's why he's so distorted, because that's the story. It's not just the character, it's the perception of the character from the point of view of the guard. And you can see, if you look really far in the back, there's a guard in the background running behind. And so ironically, this is the very last trading card I did before the whole industry went, under. 97 or 96. I think 96. No, 97. I remember they gave me this card set. I worked on it. I worked really hard. And then they said, "Oh, we got another Wolverine set coming up." And at that point, I was like, "No, I'll wait for the next one. I'll wait for the next set." And then the next set never came. Oh. So this was the most I pushed the fisheye in my work.
Okay.
Probably. And people used to come up to me and said, "Why do you get to do that?" Like other illustrators like that, we're starting out or whatever. And like, why do I try and propose that stuff and they won't let me do it? And I'm like, well, what does your artwork, your portfolio look like? And I look at it and there's nothing like that in their portfolio. So if you really want to do kind of like a distorted look to your work, then your whole, Ravenswood, that's right. Then that's exactly what you need to produce in your portfolio. So that was, and he's just fun. He's malleable. I like him better than Venom, because Venom's just a big muscle guy. And, Carnage is like wiry and can change, like can stretch and stuff, where maybe I just haven't produced anything with Venom where he's distorting in a way that I like. A lot of times I really hate his symbol. I hate the symbol on his chest, because I feel like it's one of the most complicated symbols to get right. It's like you could be like in this emotional state where you're like drawing like, and all of a sudden you get to that freaking spider and you got to slow down and figure it all out and stuff. So I usually do that last. And so I haven't done, I've done Venom portraits that I like, but never a Venom that I really loved. That's a full figure.
Well, hopefully, and maybe this is just the fan in me speaking out, that when the Venom sequel comes out, because we know Carnage will be in it,
right,
that they take this concept,
I hope so,
and utilize that, because I agree that if they're going to have that viewpoint of Carnage attacking, like you said, like a guard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the effect that I want to have, because
Right.
that is Carnage.
Yeah.
When,
I mean, if you filmed it right, you would set the whole thing up from the guard's perspective, and build the tension. As the tension increased, the distortion would increase to the point where when he's finally running down the hallway, there's maximum distortion, but hopefully not too cheesy, but to just boost the emotional effect. There's a million different ways to do it, but I would be very, very happy to see that on camera, because I just, I'm an audience member. I'm a fan. I want to see characters done with respect. I'll never forget when Tommy Lee Jones was played Two-Face, I think, in the Batman movie.
In Batman Forever.
Yeah. And basically I remember him being interviewed and saying, yeah, my son likes this stuff. It literally looked like he could care less. He just, he wanted to do it for his kid, it didn't really he wasn't taking it seriously. So when you see actors who really take the character seriously and go, how can I advance this? They're not just people in underwear, you're running around. That's, as an audience member, I want to see that.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So going from Marvel,
right?
You had also done some work on a classic video game character, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious to hear the story about this one.
Sure. It's basically called a paint over. Okay, so Ben Bates did the drawing.
Okay.
And he did a great job. So there's tons of characters in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the thing. I took this way too seriously. And what I mean by that, you can see there's a lot. I mean, essentially it was a line drawing. So I'm really working the hell out of the lighting. Is his name? Dr. Roboto, the guy in the back?
Dr. Robotnik.
Robotnik, that's it. So, I mean, to make him work, you can't. So Sonic has to be the thing that you look at first. So what I did color-wise was, in all the other characters, none of them are royal blue. Even the Sonic version, the robot one down at the bottom, is more of a turquoisey kind of color. Everything is warm colors to make them not be the thing that you look at. So that's why Sonic is so blue. And the other thing I did was I obliterated a lot of detail behind him with the lighting, so you see him first. It was extremely difficult to make this work from my perspective, which is I want lighting. Mm-hmm. Lighting is key. Characters come second. So I'm working the hell out of the light source. And then there's that mammoth guy, right? Mm-hmm. If you could zoom in really, 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 really close, you will see a boatload of texture that doesn't appear in the printed form or on screen. It was just, me going crazy, and it's down in his face, the elephant guy.
Okay.
Yeah, right down there. So, they're hello, Donut. That's my cat. He wants to be on camera.
That is the best name for a cat.
Donut. Yeah, this is Donut. This is our Frankenstein mode. Firebird. Come on, Donut. Sorry, you can come back here. She sits behind me while I work. So in all that skin texture there, you can't even see it. But there, if you zoomed in, you would see tiny, tiny fibers of skin wrinkles and stuff. I went nuts on this. And you're not going to see it in this version. You have to see it in the one that I have, the one that I actually have in Photoshop.
Okay.
So a lot of ways when I'm painting it, I would go in and I would actually erase out some of the line work if it had thick line work. The one place where it didn't is the girl on the surfboard, the bird lady on the flying surfboard. That one has a little more line than the others and looks more like a drawing, where you look at some of the other characters, like that turquoise dude in the background.
Yeah.
I had to. It was a lot of battling to make it look like a painting. So it was a lot of work, and Ben did a wonderful job on this. And it was just me kind of trying to make it work. I think I got paid like $2 an hour on it because of the fact that I worked so hard and put too many hours. She wants to walk across the keyboard. Right. So that's that, and it's a lot of it is, I don't know how many hours I put into this, but
probably more than you can count, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably, or that I want to relive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So going from Sonic to fast forward to now, and the reason why we have the opportunity to chat with you, San Diego Comic-Con's at-home convention,
right.
You were able to do a poster of the New Mutants.
Right. It was a gallery print that Upper Deck came up with, one of 5, as you can see there, and it really was a labor of love. I loved the New Mutants when they came out. I was around that age. I think if you look at this, there's Cannonball was the guy I really wanted to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at these characters, okay, so you got the girl in the front, that's Mirage, and Mirage in '83, her powers were basically to show you that, show your worst nightmare come to life.
Yeah.
Then you have a werewolf, Wolfsbane. Then you have I can't remember her name in the background with the pink.
Is it oh my goodness, is it Magic?
No.
I'm getting my mutants mixed up here.
She basically is, kind of like puppeteers people. She takes over the brain, and which is kind of a dark power. Like, that's kind of an evil person power. You know what I mean? Then you got Sunspot, who's just a super strong dude, but looks like a demon. And then you have an actual demon, I think, Sorceress, which is Magic. And then you have Warlock, who is a techno organic creature that's frightening. So they're all kind of horror based, except for Cannonball, who's a classic superhero. He's a classic superhero. I fly and I smash into things, and I'm indestructible, and that's it. So, like, if you notice, he's the only, well, it's subtle, but he's the only one that's smiling in the whole picture, because he's enjoying his power. So that was a deliberate thing, and a nod to my youth and reading the book. Although Sam Guthrie was kind of, unsure of himself, and but like, for me, like, it's kind of me projecting what I would feel like if I had those powers. So,
when I first saw this, the first character that stood out, it was Warlock.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh damn. That was literally what I said when I first saw it, was damn.
That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. It was done over the span of months, okay, because I had very limited time to work on it. I basically painted on the weekends. I have a full-time gig as I'm actually a teacher. I teach 2 places. I teach at a college, and I'm a full-time high school teacher.
Oh, wow.
I teach digital art. It's nuts. And I did that. I was teaching middle school when I did the Lego movie. So that was didn't sleep much. But anyway, yeah. So for me, every character was like a weekend, or like, some of them were fast. Like the girl with the pink, I think I did pretty quickly, and Sunspot was fast. But like Magic was a lot of work, because here's the thing: when you paint people, if they're integrated with other things behind them, then their light and their color affects the light and the color of the thing behind them. So it's not just painting somebody with like an empty background, like the werewolf.
Yeah.
Wolfsbane. That was an easier one. Warlock was a lot of figuring out, like, what am I going to do? I was sitting there going, Bill Sienkiewicz's version, and he's probably done a lot of different types, but what I remember was just like an ink blot. He was like, and he even says it's like a Rorschach test for how you perceive art, the character, yourself, whatever. And I tend to do more solid painting, like as opposed to, there might be parts of things that smear off and blur and all that sort of stuff, but there's a solid component to it. I like to render. So how to make that work was part of the slowness of the project. Was how do I do this? Like, what do I do? And I think in the beginning, when I had the blast from Cannonball, I was like, there's my light source.
Yeah.
So the other thing that was a big problem was they wanted Warlock to be huge, but yet he's not in both versions. So there's two versions, one with Warlock and Magic, and one with just the 4 on the bottom and Cannonball. So then you're faced with a compositional problem. Like, well, if he's gone and he's the biggest element, then I'm going to have somebody else big. So I had Mirage big.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I had, okay, they both can't destroy each other. Like compositionally, they both have to work with each other. So that was a lot of work. Like, how do I make everybody, fit? And I arrived at the composition, and this is where I went. And I love Mirage's hair with the skulls. That was so much fun to paint.
Oh yeah, that was one of those things where when I saw it at first, I missed it because I was just blown away by the piece as a whole. But then as I started looking more in depth, then I saw the skulls, interwoven within her hair, if you will. Right. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I was trying to, it's metaphorically kind of showing that her power, you know what I mean? So, that was that. And it was really fun because, I just love, like, Tom Taggart's another artist who's well known in his own right, sculptor. Also illustrators worked for DC and Marvel. And he does these really cool skulls that are all kind of like melting into each other. And it kind of, that was a little bit of an inspiration, and played into my natural sense of distortion. So yeah, it's there were so many things so the skulls took a lot of time. The main figure took a lot of time because of the lighting and the color treatment. I didn't know what I was doing at first. Obviously I could have played the gray and yellow costume or black and yellow costume, but I went towards this red orange kind of haze that went over everything. So, even though her upper arm and the elbow is supposed to be the color of her leggings, it's not. And so to arrive at that decision was how am I going to do this? By the way, the piece is digital, but it started from a traditional painting. So I actually started it. It started. I have the damn thing. I just, I was running out of time, and the school year was about to start, and I was like, I got to switch to digital and make this work.
Yeah.
And I can paint anywhere on my laptop, so that's why I went to that. And I'm kind of sad because I can't sell the original, but that's what makes the poster so much more collectible, is that there is no other version of it.
Yeah. And now there's only, if I was reading right, 100 of each, correct?
There's 250 of the other one.
Oh, 250 of the other one.
Yeah, of this one. This one, there's 100, and they have a Upper Deck has a logo for San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, so they're very collectible.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to produce it beyond that, but they're beautifully printed. I can tell you this just from, they sent me some, and they're just so well produced. The paper is a rich paper. The color is dense and velvety. It's like it's beautiful. And as when an illustrator signs off on it, then that's a plus. I've had things where it's been printed in the past and it just didn't look good, and you kind of feel a little depressed because it's out there and it looks terrible. But this is something I'm really, you get the Dave Devries seal of approval on it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Upper Deck does a phenomenal job. with their printing of stuff. And so to hear that you guys had teamed up together on this
Right.
was super exciting to hear. So, well, that being said, Dave, I want to thank you so much for this. This has been an absolute blast. I loved every second of it. And so thank you again for.
My pleasure. Anytime. Just if you could put links to my site, I'd appreciate
we've
it.
actually got along the bottom, we've got your Facebook page going, and then we'll definitely make sure to get all those links out for everybody to see. So,
by the way, go back one really quick. So go back one more. Okay, so there's a card I did for Upper Deck of Wonder Man, and so like I like to throw little Easter eggs. So if you go to the next one, you could see in the next shot that I put the reflection of Carnage. So instead of it being a guard, now it's Wonder Man, who I don't know why he's scared of him, but that was just something I did for fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess now that sparked a last little question here. Do you always like to throw little Easter eggs into all of your
not everywhere? No, I wish I did. Sometimes it's just the idea presents itself. So I did one for the not the Mummy ride, the Spider-Man ride. I did some artwork for that, and it was just the villains, and I told my editor, I was like, you got to find Spider-Man. He's somewhere in the picture, and clearly there's no Spider-Man, but like I had hidden it in a place, and it drove him crazy for like 3 days, and he found it. So,
but then it's like you get the reward of being able to appreciate all the art and look what I found. So,
yep, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Dave, thanks again for joining us on this very special podcast. And for everybody who's watching, make sure to head over to Upper Deck, go pick up your copy of this amazing poster. As Dave had mentioned, there's only 100 of the San Diego Comic-Con at-home exclusive poster with Warlock. And so,
and I don't know, there might be some missing, because I know people have been buying it. So I would definitely.
So they're going to go quick. So head over to upperdeckstore.com to go pick up yours. And so again, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you.
We will catch you guys later.